Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna take a look at a team that multiple people have asked me not to showcase because it's been working so very well for them. A lot of people have told me they gained between 150 to 200 elo using this team, but guess what? I also gained a hell of a lot of elo last night using it, so I simply had to showcase it. Although these battles are done at a little bit lower elo than you would probably expect from me, because my elo still hasn't recovered from battling in the Battle of Spice, which I won, by the way, yay, so good times, but that doesn't take anything away from this team. It is super strong. The way the team works is you can use it as an ABB team using Frostlass to lure out a Lanturn or a Lickitung or something like that to give Jellicent more play in the back, but most of the time you just win the lead with Dunsparce because it wins so many leads, and then if you can grab a shield, the two in the back are going to be able to handle pretty much everything up a shield. If you can win switch advantage or the opponent swaps out, you're going to have a good response to pretty much everything in the back. This team worked out so very well for me. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into a Toxapex. Not actually the best lead in the world for Dunsparce, but a pretty decent one. I do have two better responses in the back, so I like to try and swap out and catch a Sludge Wave at some point if I can. A lot of the times when you have a very bulky Pokemon up against another very bulky Pokemon, you tend to not bait, and also you tend to go for it at good timing, so go up to as they get to it, and then wait for them to throw one more Poison Jab, and then I catch the Sludge Wave on Frostlass. And then we lure out the Lickitung, which is very nice for Jellicent. So we can go up to right before they get to a Power Whip. It takes the equivalent of 8.5 Powder Snows for the Lickitung to get to a Power Whip. So we go for this right before they get there. And then the opponent goes up to right before we get to the Avalanche. And then they go for a move. If it's a Body Slam, we might be able to live it, but it is the Power Whip. But that's fine. Now we can bring back in the Dunsparce. This is a very long matchup usually, but luckily the Lickitung doesn't have a lot of HP. So now we can go for one Drill Run, and it is a little bit of an awkward health range this, but I'm hoping I might be able to farm them down because we can live quite a few charge moves from this Lickitung, or at least two. So we do go for a lot of farm, and then I might be able to farm them down with Jellicent afterwards, try to bring in the Jellicent to get an energy head start. They bring in Toxapex, and this is a very good matchup for Jellicent. I would like to come out of this with a lot of HP if at all possible, because you do, like Jellicent does completely wall Toxapex. So we go for the Shadow Ball, but I don't really want to take it out. Also, they went for the Brine. You should definitely go Sludge Wave. It's just a lot better of a move when both are equally resisted or equally effective. They are both one stage resisted. So yeah, they go for the Sludge Wave the second time around. That does quite a little bit more, and they still have two shields, so I really need them to not have any fast move pressure in the back. Luckily, it is an Aurorus, so we can go for this serve. I wait for them to go for one Powder Snow before going for the serve. I think I might have let two Powder Snow through, which was a bit of a mistake. They try to catch in a Lickitung. I'm afraid I might be licked down, so I do bring in my Dunsparce to roll out them down. Then we go for the first Drill Run. We have so much energy everywhere. The first Drill Run does about half. We can make it to another Drill Run, which would also do about half. They've already expended one shield, I think. And the Jellicent has so much energy that the opponent just realizes they're not going to be able to win it, and therefore they concede the match. Next game lead into an Abomasnow. Good lead for Dunsparce, of course, with this being an ice type. So we can go up to the first Rock Slide and throw it at the Dunsparce. Takes 5, then 4 for the Weather Ball. That always takes 7 for the Energy Ball, as they go for a move immediately after throwing 8 Powder Snows, and it is the Energy Ball, so they should be almost dry. Then they bring in the Deoxys. I bring in Jellicent. I should probably bring in Frostlass because most Deoxys run Thunderbolt instead of Rock Slide, and this does also run Thunderbolt, making it a little bit better against Jellicent. But we can go up to right before they make it to a Psycho Boost, and then go for the Shadow Ball, which the Deoxys lives on 1 HP, so they can get off this Psycho Boost, unfortunately. But this Hex should take out the Deoxys. We come out with a little bit of HP, potentially enough to get to a move against whatever they bring in, which is the Abomasnow once again, so we can make it to a Shadow Ball. And then I don't really want to let them Powder Snow me down, so I bring in the Frostlass after landing this, and then they will be able to make it to an Energy Ball, but I can just shield this, and then I'm gonna be able to get a huge energy head start on Frostlass for whatever they have in the back, which is a Lanturn. Not what I wanted to see, but if I remember correctly, the Dunsparce also still has energy, so we can go for the first Shadow Ball here, which they don't really want to shield the moves from Frostlass because the Dunsparce hits harder, although the Shadow Ball does quite a bit of damage. They go for a Thunderbolt. I would probably go for Surfs instead, because you do need 2 from that health range. But my opponent just realizes I have too much energy everywhere once again, so they concede the match next game, lead into Quagsire. One of the bad leads for Dunsparce, but we can bring in Frostlass and they can go for the Avalanche immediately, putting a lot of pressure on this Quagsire because this does a lot of damage. They do put up the shield and then they go for a move, and this is a tough call because the Stone Edge does about 79%. I call the Mud Bomb bait, and it is the Mud Bomb bait, and then they go for another move after 5, meaning this can only be another Mud Bomb and not a Stone Edge, so I can't let it go, and we do live it. And then I think they try to catch a move on their Frostlass, not really sure. They do bring it in anyways, so we can make it to a Shadow Ball, which would one-shot the Frostlass, but they bring up the shield. And now we can bring in the Dunsparce. I was considering bringing in the Jellicent because then we can take it out a little bit easier. But I think I might be able to roll out them into a range where one Rock Slide is enough. We can take the first Avalanche and then go for a Rock Slide, which won't quite KO the Frostlass, but it will bring them low. They will be able to make it to another Avalanche, which we do have to shield. But at this point, the Quagsire, like if we come out with a shield advantage and an energy advantage, Dunsparce might be able to deal with it. As we roll out the Frostlass all the way down. Now what are they gonna bring in? They wait a little bit, then they bring in an Abomasnow. I go for the Rock Slide. I thought I waited to see the second move, but apparently they just make the catch. Very nice catch by my opponent. I load up to a Rock Slide once again and then bring in Jellicent onto this Quagsire. And they go for a move, which is the Stone Edge. Stone Edge and Mud Bomb are pretty much the same energy efficiency. I thought that they were one away from the next Stone Edge, so I wanted to go for the Shadow Ball right before they got to it, because I wasn't quite sure a Surf would be enough. I do think a Surf is enough. Looking at it now, it does about 30%. Then I try to undercharge the Shadow Ball. Not the best attempt. It does take them out, and now they can just bring in the Abomasnow, go up to right before we get to another Shadow Ball, and then go for a move. They full sent the Energy Ball, which I don't think was quite necessary. I think a Weather Ball would have been enough from that range, but it means we can get to back-to-back Rock Slide. I think we would have been able to outpace them anyways, but we make it to the first Rock Slide, which does big damage, and because they made that catch earlier on, I'm gonna BM them with a Drill Run to take out the Abomasnow, and that is a good game. I am a child, I know, don't blame me. Next game, lead into a Lanturn. This is another very good lead for Dunsparce. Because of the rollout buff, Dunsparce now wins this in every even shield scenario very comfortably. Very good matchup for Dunsparce overall. As they go for a Thunderbolt, I would probably prefer the triple Surf, because that is enough to take out a Dunsparce. But double Thunderbolt plus a lot of Sparks might also do the trick. So we go for the second Drill Run, which will take out the Lanturn if they don't shield, but they do put up the shield. But now we can live another Thunderbolt from this range. So we'll be able to take this and still be able to get to another Drill Run to take them out. But then they bring in a Medicham. I kind of panic a little bit and go for the Drill Run, because I had to think very quickly in order for it not to just counter me down. And then I bring in Jellicent afterwards. They do make it to a Psychic, which is not really what I want to shield. The Lanturn is not close to a Thunderbolt, but it's definitely more threatening. So we can overfarm quite a bit before going for this Shadow Ball against the Medicham. Bit of a half-hearted attempt at going for an undercharge, but I really didn't want to get to another Psychic, so I didn't want to risk letting them get there. So yeah, they bring in a Noctowl afterwards, and this is a bit of a problem. This is actually quite a bigger problem, because these Surfs really just aren't doing a lot of damage to it, so it looks like they might be able to farm me all the way down and come out with a lot of energy on this Noctowl. Get to another Surf, and at this point I maybe could swap out, but also they are almost at 100 energy anyways, so they're not getting a lot out of this farm down, so I'd rather keep my switch timer open as I bring in the Dunsparce to force them to throw energy because they can't wing attack me down. They bring in the Lanturn, we bring in the Frostlass because I don't want to get farmed down by the Lanturn, of course. Then they go for a Surf, and we can make it to an Avalanche. If I remember correctly, this Lanturn still has quite a bit of energy, and I think it's going to be able to outpace me to 2 Surfs before I get to another Avalanche. But I kind of have to shield because the Dunsparce is so low. So I think they're getting to another Surf here, which I also kind of have to shield. But at this point they should be dry, and because it's 665 for the Avalanches for Frostlass, we can't overfarm by 5. Go for the Avalanche, go for the back-to-back Avalanche. The first one, win CMP against Lanturn to take out the Lanturn. The second one, to win CMP against the Noctowl to take out the Noctowl, of course, as we see it. Although the Noctowl had 100 energy. And that is a good game. Next game, another very good lead for Dunsparce into Golisopod. They swap into a Frostlass, which is really not a response to Dunsparce. They are completely core broken, which is another thing with Dunsparce. It just core breaks teams like crazy. Go for the Rock Slide. I really want to save my Dunsparce for the Golisopod, so I take one Avalanche here, and I'm thinking I can't farm it down before it gets to a move, but I can farm it down before it gets to 2 moves, and then I'm just going to get a huge farm down on my Frostlass. Yes, I have to expend the shield, but Frostlass with this amount of energy, the amount of energy that it comes out of this matchup with, is going to be able to threaten pretty much everything. Or actually, everything. They bring back in the Golisopod, and we go for the Shadow Ball. Takes 6 for the first liquidation, 665. So we can't go 2 more Powder Snows, and then I think at this point an Avalanche is enough to take them out, so we go for that instead. And that does get the shield, and then I'm thinking they're probably not baiting here, because that would be ridiculous to go for the bait. So I can shield the liquidation, then catch the next one on Jellicent. They actually do go for the bait, meaning they were at the liquidation there after 5 and then 5 for the liquidation. So I try to catch it on Jellicent, but they bring in Toxapex, and this is just a very dominant matchup for Jellicent. So we just win that game. My opponent concedes. Next game, lead into the mirror match. Bit of an interesting mirror match. My Dunsparce has very, very good IVs, so I'm probably gonna lose the CMP here, unfortunately, which is very much determining in this matchup as we go for drill runs, on drill runs, on drill runs. 3 is enough to take out with the rollout damage after quite a bit of rollout damage, so we go for this drill run. I'm thinking the way you want to play the mirror team, if you can save some energy on Dunsparce, as you're going to see later on, you're going to be able to threaten the opponent quite a lot. So I actually decide to catch the next one on Jellicent, save some energy on my Dunsparce, which is a little bit of a questionable play, I think. They try to go for the Rock Slide, maybe thinking I would try to catch on something, and maybe thinking that I would try to catch on like a flying type, which I really like that play, although I wasn't quite sure a Rock Slide would be enough to take out Dunsparce. They bring in Lanturn after loading back up to another move, another very good play by my opponent, and then they go up to right before we get to the Shadow Ball, and then they go for the Thunderbolt to take out my Jellicent. Now we can bring back in the Dunsparce, but the Lanturn I think still has a bit of energy, so we can't overfarm too much, so go for the drill run. And I try to go for the undercharge, thinking that maybe they're going to go for their move immediately to take out my Dunsparce, and then I want to leave them in range where they're still switch locked, so I can Powder Snow them down with Frostlass and get an energy advantage, or an energy head start. They do shield it, so I just let my Dunsparce go, because now I have a shield advantage instead of Frostlass, which is also completely fine. Let the first Surf go, and then I'm not quite sure a Shadow Ball will be enough. They try to catch a Shadow Ball on Pidgeot, so we go up to almost 100 energy, go for the Avalanche instead, almost takes out the Pidgeot. Now we can farm them down. We don't have a lot of health left on Frostlass, but we still have 2 shields. The Dunsparce has a lot of energy still. I go for the Avalanche and what I thought would be a CMP, but I think my opponent overfarmed instead on the Lanturn, and then they just let it go and put it all on Dunsparce, but we get to 1 Avalanche, and I think my opponent realized they're not getting to 3 Rock Slides, and I will be able to get to 2 Avalanches, so they just conceded that match. Next game, lead into Magcargo. Very, very good lead for Dunsparce. They go for a move immediately, meaning they threw on very bad timing, giving us an entire rollout through, and they go for the Rock Tomb. I was a little bit afraid of the overheat, but I still didn't really want to shield it. Then we can go for this drill run, and despite it being double super effective, Magcargo just tanks it like a boss, and we can go up to right before they get to another move. It is always 3 for the Magcargo, and then go for a drill run to take out the Magcargo or grab the shield. I'm thinking they must be very weak to Dunsparce in the back, since they're staying in with the Magcargo. This is a quite bad matchup, so I shield my Dunsparce, and then they bring in a Frostlass. I don't want to start unloading energy when my Dunsparce is double debuffed, with like double attack debuffed. So bring in my Jellicent to basically sack it, thinking that they had a Magcargo in the front, so they're probably not weak to it in the back. Go for a Shadow Ball on this Frostlass. We do grab the shield. I threw in bad timing because I wasn't 100% sure I could live 2 Powder Snows, which was probably a bit silly. I was expecting them to go for the CMP because I was expecting them to know that I had a Rock Slide stored, so I didn't want to go for my Rock Slide immediately. Instead, I overfarm and then go for the Rock Slide before they get to another one, taking out the Frostlass. Then they bring in a Pelipper. We're throwing bad timing again, but I just want to get this off as quickly as possible so I can swap in my Frostlass as quickly as possible so I can bring it in and get to an Avalanche before they get to a Hurricane. Go up to before they get to a Hurricane, wait a turn to make sure we throw in the middle of their wing attack, and then go for this Avalanche to take out the Pelipper. And the Magcargo is simply too low, so they concede the match once again. This is the game where my opponent absolutely schools me in how to play the mirror team. You can definitely learn from watching the opponent play here, not from me. I just wanted to showcase how to play the mirror team. I also learned from this and play pretty much the same way later on and win a game against the mirror team. But this time around, I am just getting absolutely destroyed. I go for the Dragonair immediately because I want to throw in like unpredictable timing, which I thought was a little bit like especially when you do YouTube, you have to throw in unpredictable timing. They save 2 moves on their Dunsparce and then they bring in the Jellicent, which I don't really have a response to. So I kind of have to stay in or like bring in something down energy against the Jellicent, which I don't really like. So they go for a Surf. It takes 4, then 3/3 for the Surfs. And then we can go for this drill run. I was thinking they probably want to throw right before I get to another move. So I try to catch the Surf on my own Jellicent, which was a little bit too risky, I think. Now they can just make it to a Shadow Ball, which I call the bait, and it is the Shadow Ball, and it does massive damage. I don't really want to take them out, come out with no energy, and leave myself in farm range, so I would rather leave them in farm range and then bring in either my own Dunsparce or Frostlass. Maybe I should have brought in Frostlass here, but I just thought the Dunsparce has so much energy that they're just going to be able to get off like 2 Rock Slides on my Frostlass if I bring it in. So bring my own Dunsparce, wait for them to bring in their Dunsparce, try to go for the CMP, but once again, I lose the CMP to an opposing Dunsparce, but we do make them throw some energy. So now I can bring in the Frostlass, the opponent brings in their Frostlass, and I'm thinking, they're probably fast moving me into a range where 1 Rock Slide is enough to take me out. So their win con is to just go straight Shadow Ball here, because they don't have to bait. So I put up the shield, but I should have just gone for my win condition that they were gonna go for the bait, because I can't take a Rock Slide after coming out of this matchup. So I just have to hope that they make the mistake of going for the Avalanche. I go for the Shadow Ball the second time around, hoping for the KO, but they shield it, and now I am in Rock Slide range, or very close to it. So if they go Shadow Ball, then Rock Slide, I lose. I have to call the Avalanche. And of course, the second time around, I have to shield it. And now I'm not sure where their switch time is at. I have to throw immediately if the Dunsparce comes in. If it doesn't come in, I have to go for the Shadow, like go up to back, go for the Shadow Ball against Frostlass, and then the Avalanche against Dunsparce. But they bring it in, go for the Rock Slide. I don't react in time. And that is a good game. Next game, lead into Gyarados, Shadow Gyarados. Bit of a spicy Pokemon. I'm kind of expecting triple Dragon Breath, not gonna lie. They go for a move on CMP, which initially I thought was a pretty poor play by the opponent, because if I hadn't gone for the move, I would have gotten an entire rollout through. But because they go for the CMP, they leave me with not a lot of energy, and they can just let the Gyarados go, and then bring in a Shadow Kingdra, which is a very, very tough Pokemon to deal with. Go for the drill run to grab the shield, and then I bring in Jellicent. They will be able to outpace to an Outrage before I get to a move, and this is just such a difficult call, because from a Shadow Kingdra it would do so much damage. If it's the Oxazuka bait, it is so bad, and they even get the attack debuff, which is, I hate going up against Kingdra because the bait game is just a nightmare. Go for the Shadow Ball, but because we're debuffed, it doesn't take them out. They bring in the Dragonair after loading up some energy on Kingdra, getting quite close to another move, or semi-close to it, and then they bring Dragonair. I can't quite get off the Surf, which wouldn't really do that much damage anyways. They shielded the Shadow Ball despite it being debuffed, which I guess makes sense because the Dragonair is very frail. And then they go for a Body Slam against my Frostlass, which doesn't make sense at all. I think I'm getting Dragon Breath down if I don't shield this move at this point, so I do shield it, and then I'm gonna try catch the move on Dunsparce the second time around, and we do catch it on Dunsparce, which is very nice, but I'm thinking their switch time I might be up, and the Kingdra has quite a lot of energy, so I go straight for the Avalanche as I see the typing in the top right corner to take out the Kingdra. I know this Dragonair doesn't have the energy to get to a move, so we can just Powder Snow it all the way down, and that is a very good game. Next game, lead into an Altaria. Another good lead for Dunsparce, of course. There were so many good leads for Dunsparce. I'm telling you, this Pokemon is like an absolute god in this meta right now. go for the Rock Slide, and again, because of the rollouts, this is a lot more of a comfortable matchup for Dunsparce because they just add up that little bit more than usually. It takes the equivalent of 5 rollouts for the Altaria to get to a Sky Attack, so we can go for the CMP here on the second rollout or on the second Rock Slide. And they shield, which is absolutely fine by me, because as I say, the back 2 Pokemon, like pretty much everything they can handle in the back, even a Lanturn if they're up shields. They bring in the Lanturn on Frostlass, we kind of have to stay in, which is not a comfortable situation. But Frostlass up a shield against Lanturn, as I say, perfectly fine. We do go for the Shadow Ball, and then they go for a move. We can take the first one, and usually you should go double Surf as the Lanturn, because adding the Sparks up double Surf is enough, whereas one Thunderbolt is not. And then they go for a second Surf, I think immediately, if I remember correctly. And then we can overfarm quite a lot, and then go for a CMP tie with the next Shadow Ball. This, if they no shield it, we come out with a little bit of energy, but if they shield it, means that now the Lanturn, it has no shields, we have a shield advantage, and their energy dry, so we can bring in the Jellicent. They will be able to outpace, but they bring in Frostlass instead, and this Frostlass will also be able to outpace and get to the Shadow Ball on CMP, so I don't want to CMP it, because Frostlass does win CMP, but now they are energy dry, so we can overfarm quite a lot with Jellicent, up to 100 energy, go for the Shadow Ball on Frostlass. The Altaria swapped out immediately after throwing the Sky Attack, so it's dry. The Lanturn should also be dry. So the Jellicent takes out one Pokemon with the Shadow Ball. What are they bringing in next? I think their Switch Timer isn't up because they swapped into Frostlass. We overfarm quite a lot against the Lanturn. Go for the Shadow Ball, number 2, to take out the second Pokemon in Lanturn. And now they bring in the Altaria. And we go for Shadow Ball, number 3 with Jellicent, to of course take out the Altaria as well. And that is a good game. Very nice sweep by Jellicent. Next game, lead into an absolute core breaker on Jellicent, or in the Chestnaught. I don't really know what to do here. I bring in my Frostlass, hoping that I can pull some miracles off, maybe get a shield advantage somehow for my Jellicent. They go for Offensive Plant. The Frostlass and Chestnaught pace at the exact same time, so because I was down one turn, I wouldn't be able to outpace it, so I just let my Frostlass go, and then they bring in Charizard to farm me down. And they come out with 5 wing attacks worth of energy. My Dunsparce can't do anything against the Chestnaught, so I'm just going to bring it in here and sacrifice it. I should have gone for the CMP here because they are at the 11 wing attacks, which is enough for 1 Blast Burn and a Dragon Claw. I didn't go for the CMP, but they let me get off a Rock Slide anyways, so we can take out this Charizard. And now we are up a shield with Jellicent, but this is not a comfortable matchup still. I have to make a very, very risky call. I'm thinking because I have 2 shields, it's just so obvious that I'm going to shield it, that I'm actually just going to call the bait. So I called the Avalanche bait from Frostlass, very risky, made my stomach spin, not gonna lie, but now we can go for the Shadow Ball to take out the Frostlass. They bring back in the Chestnaught. These Vine Whips aren't doing a lot, but they need to get to 3 moves, which means they're probably just going for the Vine Whip farm down. We can make it to 1 Shadow Ball, and it almost takes out the Chestnaught because they just call it. We would have made it to another one, but we overcome the Chestnaught lead, and we're rewarded with a Machamp lead in the next game. Yay! No, not yay at all. We swap in Frostlass, and they swap into a regular Castform, or a normal Castform. It takes 3 hexes for the Castform to get to the Weather Balls. I'm a bit of a Castform enthusiast, so I actually know this matchup quite a lot better than you would probably expect. Go for the Avalanche before they get to another one, and then they let me get to another one. I'm not sure if they miscounted or what happened here, but they let me get to another one, and it does big damage to the Castform, meaning they have to go for another move to take out Frostlass. They are back to back here, so I would have to shield twice, which I don't really want to do. So I just let it go, take my shield advantage, and bring in Dunsparce to farm down this Castform. They make it to another Weather Ball, which doesn't really do a lot of damage. Also, the Castform has Energy Ball as its second move, so I didn't want to bring in my Jellicent. Bring in Jellicent on the Machamp, and they bring in a double kick Girafarig. Of course, what did you expect? Go for the Surf, and looking at how much damage this Surf does, it looks like I only need to land 1 more. It takes 4-3-3 for the Surfs, and it takes 3 for the Psychic Fangs and 5 for the Thunderbolt. So I'm thinking I can get to 3 Surfs before they get to 2 Psychic Fangs and a Thunderbolt, so I don't have to risk it. I can just shield twice safely. So we go for the second Surf, which is shielded, and then we go for the third Surf on CMP. I could have probably gone for 1 more Hex, but here I'm just going to shield the Psychic Fangs and then take them out with a Surf. My Jellicent is very debuffed, so I'm afraid that the counters plus a Rock Slide from a Machamp will be enough to take it out, so I swap it out for the Dunsparce. And then Machamp comes back in, goes for the cross chop immediately, but Dunsparce, being an absolute hero, lifts the cross chop on about 5 HP and gets off a drill run to do big damage onto the Shadow Machamp. And now we can get to the surf on CMP, but they should only be on 7 counters, so this can't be a payback. Is a Rock Slide enough to take out Jellicent? No, it's not. So we get off this surf, which with this Machamp in health, in red health, they should of course take it out. And that is another good game, overcoming another very difficult lead. Against the Shadow Dragonair, you do win the 0 shields, but you lose the 1s and 2s, so I like to go for the 0 shields. Go for the drill run first, because I don't think 2 Rock Slides is quite enough. I haven't looked it up, but generally drill run is the correct move to go for if they're equally effective, because it is just a better move than Rock Slide. So we go for the first drill run, does quite a lot of damage to Dragonair, and then I go for the Rock Slide the second time around, because sometimes people like to try and catch the second drill run. And if they try to catch in a flyer. So you didn't catch a drill run, you caught a Rock Slide. Congratulations, trainer. We're bringing the Frost Slash. They make it to 6. I was gonna CMP them on 7, but because there was only 6, it's only a Sky Attack. But I still decided to shield it, because I was thinking that maybe I can shield it and then farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy and health. But they make it to another Sky Attack. I don't want to spend 2 shields, so we can take this Sky Attack and then farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy instead. And now what are they gonna bring in? They bring in our worst nightmare when Dunsparce is gone. Lanturn. We're down a shield, but the Shadow Ball lands, does big damage. We can make it to another Shadow Ball, but this is really not a good situation. I can't really swap in my Jellicent, because then it's just gonna lose to this Lanturn. So bring in my Dunsparce to maybe like create some chaos. Doesn't really create any chaos. They just get to a surf to take out my Dunsparce, and now they still have energy on this Lanturn. I think there are 2 or 3 sparks. I count in-games, but I haven't really counted right now, so I don't really remember. I should be aware of it in-game. But they make it to another move, and I think there's just no way they're going to bait here, because they will be able to outpace me. So they go for the Thunderbolt, and then we can go for the Shadow Ball or go for the bait. And I'm thinking the Dragonair is so low, they have to shield this. But they no-shield it, they call the bait. But that means we can get to another surf, and because we got off 2 charge moves, the switch timer is up. They're 1 away. We wait a turn and then catch the Thunderbolt on Frost Slash. Very nice. Now, can we farm them down before they get to a Thunderbolt? It's 7 away. We go for the farm down. They throw off the 6. Have I miscounted? Is this a Thunderbolt? No, it's not. It's only a surf. We can live it. The Dragonair still has a lot of energy, but it's not quite at a move, so we can get off the Shadow Ball against the Dragonair to take it out, and Jellicent clutches another game. Next game, another good lead for Dunsparce into Frost Slash, and they swap into a Shadow Regirock, and this thing has Stone Edge and Focus Blast, so I don't need to fear anything from it with my Jellicent, although that's not right, because it has Zap Cannon and it just one-shots my Jellicent. Goodbye Jellicent, and that's basically game over. Yikes. Be cautious. Sometimes these Regirocks, they also have Earthquake, but most of the time they run Stone Edge plus Zap Cannon, and then I kind of misplay afterwards. I should definitely recognize that I need to save a shield for Frost Slash, because like Frost Slash down shields really doesn't do anything. Like when I'm down shields against an opposing Frost Slash with my own Frost Slash, which I've lost switch advantage. I will be. That's just a terrible situation, so I had to save the shield. Farm down the Regirock with my Dunsparce, and then they bring in a Medicham, which switch advantage would have been very nice in this game, but yeah, very nice surprise move by my opponent to just go for their Zap Cannon, and now bring in my Frost Slash, hoping that my opponent would be like insanely slow at swapping into their own Frost Slash, and that I could somehow outpace it, but down a shield. I do go for the bait. I maybe should just go for my Wincon and like call that they're either baiting or just go for a surprise nuke, hoping my opponent was trying to 2-shield flex or something ridiculous. I go for another bait, hoping that my opponent is really, really bad at counting and wants to overfarm perfectly. But no, they just throw it immediately to be safe, and that is the correct play, because there is no way in hell my Dunsparce is getting through that Medicham in the back. So that is a good game. Next game, lead into a Lanturn. Very good matchup for Dunsparce. And they bring in a Kommo-o, and once again, I make a bit of a mistake. Bring in Frost Slash. I just saw the Dragon typing and brought in Frost Slash, but this is actually not all that good of a matchup against Kommo-o. Kommo-o is actually a bit of a core breaker for this team. We can go for this Avalanche, and if you have a very good Frost Slash, The thing is, they pace at the same time, and like you can outpace to the third one in even energy, but because they came in first, I can't. A very good Frostlass can lift the second Dragon Claw in the one shield scenario against a very good Kommo-o, but I don't think they had like a really good IVs on their Kommo-o. Maybe they did, maybe my Frostlass just decided not to survive it, I'm not sure. But now I have to go for a very aggressive farm down with my Jellicent in order to be able to take out the Lanturn. But they swap out into their Lanturn, giving me back switch advantage. But this has to mean that they have another response to Jellicent. I have to be aware of that. I don't really want to shield the moves from Lanturn on Dunsparce because they really don't do a lot of damage, but I have to be wary that my Dunsparce is probably going to have to put in a lot of work in this game. So I don't want to let it get too low. So we go for the drill run right before they get to another move, really hoping that we've done enough rollout damage to take them out, and it is enough to take out the Lanturn. Now what are they going to bring in? They bring back in the Kommo-o, and it just about makes it to another move before we can farm them down. And again, I'm thinking that they're weak to or they're good against Jellicent in the back, which they are. They have a Lickitung, and this is a very, very tough situation to be in. Go for the first drill run to do not a lot of damage to Lickitung, but I'm thinking maybe I can try to catch a Body Slam on Jellicent. I have a lot of energy on Jellicent, so there might still be play here. So I'll go up to right before I make it to another move, wait a couple of turns, and then try to CMP sack with the Jellicent on a Body Slam. But no, they just don't throw their energy. We get to the third serve, and we get off the second serve as well, but now they should be able to overfarm quite a bit and come out with a lot of energy. They overfarm to right before I get to the next serve. And a Body Slam is not enough from here, so very nice recognition by my opponent. Go for the serve, or for the Power Whip, but then they try to catch the move on Kommo-o. I wasn't at the drill run, and then we can just CMP tie the Lickitung afterwards. Huge mistake by my opponent, and then we just drill run and take out the Lickitung, and that is a good game. Final game, lead into a Shadow Dragonair. Again, I like to play this in the Zero Shields because that is where Dunsparce can win, so we go for the first drill run here. I don't really like grabbing switch advantage in this matchup because I have to throw the Rock Slide immediately. It takes the equivalent of 4 rollouts for the Dragonair to get to a move, and it will be able to, like if I go for one more rollout, it will be able to outpace or get to the move. So I have to go for it here and leave my Dunsparce in a kind of awkward health range. And then they bring in a Cradilly, and I know Cradilly, if it gets ahead on energy, it's just gonna demolish my team. If I let it farm my Dunsparce down, that is just terrible. But even not ahead on energy, it's still just gonna demolish my team because it outpaces the Frostlass, and a Rock Slide from a Shadow Cradilly does about 81% to a Frostlass, and it's also of course gonna do very well against the Jellicent. But they swap into Sudowoodo. I try to throw in very unpredictable timing. I go like 2 or 3 Powder Snows over to try and CMP tie this to the Voodoo to leave it energy dry or close to. But they throw another move, they're quite close to another one. So I'm thinking I need to get energy on my Jellicent. That is the way I win this against this Cradilly. I need to get ahead on energy. I can't take any move from the Sudowoodo. It is fine. The move I don't want to take is the Grass Knot from the Cradilly. So we get a huge farm down on Sudowoodo after taking a Meteor Beam, which did big damage. And now we can get to a Shadow Ball on this Cradilly. Because it's Shadow, this should do a lot of damage if it lands. And it does. Now, can we farm them down? They are back-to-back moves here. So they go for the first one. I want to get this Hex through because I'm thinking if I get 2 Hex through here, I will be able to take it out. And that is exactly the case. We fast moved down the Cradilly. And that was a very close but very good game. And we finished the night at 28-54. 297 elo over where we started. I real quick want to mention that if you like my content and want to support this channel, you now can by becoming a member. There is a box under this video next to the subscribe button, which you can also hit. It is of course not forced at all, but it would be very much appreciated if you want to. That was the last battle for today. Overall, this team was just absolutely amazing. Frostlass is obviously one of the best Pokemon in this meta, and I absolutely love using it, but I want to highlight Dunsparce. It won so many leads, and there were a lot of games that were a lot more easy than the ones you saw here. I chose to showcase some of the more interesting games, most of all, but there were a lot of games where I just RPS my opponents, like a lot of games. Other than that, fun fact of the day, Dunsparce beats Shadow Swampert in the Zero Shields with only 2 rollouts advantage. Very good thing to be aware of. Other than that, if you like what you see, or feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.